reduction, but this is all going to end. One of the things, as I've gotten more and more into this, initially I was kind of a little skeptical about it, and then I got into it more and more. And lately I've been watching, I go walking in the morning, and I watch these guys doing their little game every morning of filling the skies with their chemtrails. When you watch the jets who are landing at Sacramento International Airport, and you see these guys, you see that the jets go by and there's hardly anything coming out of their exhaust. These guys, you can barely see the jet, and you see this massive amount of trail behind them of these chemicals. And you know it's being done for a purpose. It's not just to fill the sky with these wonderful things that look like smoke. It's being done for another purpose. And as you know, up in Mount Shasta, they even had a resolution to not have chemtrails in that area. And of course, they then destroyed everything in Redding just south of there that particular year that they did that.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that people do not fully understand that this program is not a positive one, it's a negative one. And it is going to end. It's not much longer, but meanwhile, it is leaving an effects on a lot of people because we are the ones who are changing the most, so we're the most that are susceptible to the whole group of chemicals, these heavy metals, that they're dropping into the atmosphere every day. And I mean every day. I mean, I hardly have seen a day in the last month when they haven't had this stuff in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's been pretty heavy up here too. So there's another question that's come up in my life here lately. We had some people from Hollywood come up and they interviewed me and another guy, Ralph Ring, and James Gilliland up in Mount Adams. And it's for a program that they're going to put on the History Channel called Disclosure or Clandestine Disclosure. But it came up about the Hollow Earth. And I've interviewed a couple of people on this. Some people up in Mount Shasta that talk about the Hollow Earth, but on a fifth dimensional level. And I've also interviewed Colonel Woodard that was in the Air Force for 11 or 12 years and spent 11 years about 28 stories down. And he said the whole Earth is filled with tunnels and that the Earth is hollow. And it's so hard for me to grasp this, especially without hard evidence. But come to find out, with the help of the government, they have two icebreakers, two nuclear Russian icebreakers now that they're going to be taken to the Arctic to really find out if this is true or not. So a lot of people do take it serious. What do you know about this as far as it being true or not true?
Well, since I was a kid, I have known about Inner Earth. I even have been in Inner Earth. The geography of our planet is entirely different than the stuff you read in various science texts based on geology. When I was in college, I took the whole beginning part of geology, and what was taught in those courses about the nature of the planet, I just don't buy anymore. I never really have bought it for a long, long time. And that is that the planet somehow has this huge magma that goes from the crust all the way down to the core. And it just doesn't exist that way. There are too many anomalies, but the very nature of the auroras, both north and south, the aurora australis, the aurora borealis, whatever you look at how the auroras are created, more and more you see that it has to be a central sun, not some outside radiation force, some cosmic ray thing or whatever that's causing it. And as you begin to understand that more and more, and you begin to look at people who have been there, and I compare notes, you begin to see that the planet is hollow. Plus, one of the things NASA did during the Apollo flights back from the moon to the Earth was allow them to take actual pictures of the North Polar Hole. So you can see it there with a NASA photograph of Apollo whatever at it. And of course, the one I've used a lot is the one from Apollo 11 and the other one from Apollo 14. But what we have also is realized that an ESA satellite in 1961, I think it was, in Life magazine, the very cover showed the North Polar region and showed the hole. So Yes, there is a North Polar Hole, be it is very guided by special fields, and two, people on this planet that do commercial flights, etc., know that when you get too close to the North Polar Hole, your magnetics go crazy. So actually, they fly quite a distance away from the North Polar Hole, not from the North Pole proper. So, because the North Pole proper really doesn't exist, it's just a geological thing on a map that isn't really real. What is real is that the geomagnetic poles of the planet keep shifting, and what they do is they shift near the edges of this hole. The hole the Russian submarine found out is about 800 miles across at the North Pole. So as you begin to see all of this and you understand what it is and you meet the people inside of the planet is a five-dimensional reality of fully conscious beings, and it's called Agartha, which is the name in Lemurian, Ag meaning inner and Eartha meaning the old Lemurian name for Earth. So right away, Agartha simply means inner Earth. And Agartha and the Agarthans are incredible beings, incredible place. It's what this planet will look like when it extends from both the inside of the planet to the outside of the planet. A magnificent, unbelievably beautiful place. And that's where we're headed towards. One of the things that's going to shock a lot of people on this planet is the whole concept that we are indeed living in a hollow world. We're living on the outside of this hollow world, and the Agarthans are living on the inside, and that all planets, not only in this particular solar system, but throughout physicality, throughout this galaxy, are hollow. Even solar objects like the sun are hollow. So you know there's a whole different physics involved other than the physics that we now possess, and that there has to be a paradigm shift. And sure enough, physicists, geophysicists, all aspects of science dealing with the need to understand this reality are moving more and more toward changing how this particular reality is looked at. And that the whole concept of a physicality only and no spiritual aspect is ludicrous. That we need to work on how to combine and put together the spiritual aspects, so-called etheric world, and the so-called physical world, and how do we understand how these interact with one another, and how does one lead into the other, physicality into the ethereal world into physicality. An example of that, zero-point energy, which is ethereal in its nature. So we need to change, because all people who design anything to do with zero-point generators or look at this energy know it defies every major law of modern physics, which means one thing. When you have something that can be proven to totally alter what you're talking about, it means that what you're talking about in so-called mainstream physics is wrong, and it has to change. And when you change that mainstream physics, you change the whole ball of wax of how this reality is looked at. And that's what's happening right now. So Inner Earth is just another one of these keys, like the consciousness shift, that our world is indeed about to change, and a lot of people it's going to be a pretty shocking thing as this event occurs.
Yeah, what's strange is everything about Hollow Earth. I started out being really not believing it at all. But the more I looked into it, there's a lot of science popping up that's changing the geographical knowledge that we used to have. Like from when I was a kid, it was Genesis and God created it in 6 days and rested on the seventh, to the Pangea theory, and now it has this crust displacement theory, right, where the Earth expanded out, the crust and all that. But now the Japanese are coming up with some evidence that at the center of the Earth, it's not as solid as we thought. There's a bird that flies north in the wintertime, and it could not survive in the frozen north. It's going somewhere where it's actually warm. Then you have people like Dalai Lama saying that no, Shambhala is actually a real geographical place.
Right, it is. You have all kinds of anomalies like that. Like you go to the North Polar region, up into the area of the so-called Polar Sea in the winter, and what you see is pollen and honeybee remnants honey and honeybees flying around. Now, where would a honeybee exist if it was flying in a place where at the warmest part of the day it's minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit? There's no way that anything can live. Yet you have different colored pollens, and you have honeybees, and you have all kinds of strange things going on like this, like floating in the crust of ice, remnants of trees, whole branches, leaves, stuff like that. That would not exist if it was in the North Polar area. This is a place where there's nothing, where the Eskimos, in order to live, have to hunt for fish or any kinds of animal like seal. So you say to yourself, where does the plant life come from? It's almost impossible because of what we know about how the system operates. Therefore, there has to be something else. Exactly. And we find the same thing happening in here. We have migrations of birds in the North Hudson Bay area going north. Why do they want to go north? According to the weather people, nobody can exist the farther north you go. It's darker in the winter, it's colder, windier, there's whiteouts. It's a place where nobody can live, nobody can survive. So there has to be something else there. And the idea you immediately begin coming across in your head is, this has to be one thing and one thing only. And that one thing only that it is that it is most importantly something else. There has to be another world that's warmer, has more energy in it, and allows us to succeed in bringing in a whole new concept of how this planet operates. And that is, of course, what's happening. There are scientists that have been studying the auroras for years. Even though they're a minority, they discovered very much one thing. They discovered that if you really look at the origins of the aurora comes from inside the Earth. It doesn't come from above in the cosmic rays. So as you begin studying this, you start saying, all the theories that exist about how this operates doesn't seem to hold water, so to speak. So you know that inner Earth has to be real. The concept of a 5D reality has to exist, and it has to be a reality that is so different from this world of climate differentiation, because even in the North Polar area, it's warm. So there has to be something going on that's entirely different, and that's what I have seen, and that's what I know. That's why when I give webinars or I talk in any way about inner Earth, I always try to explain to people that A, it's been photographed, B, there are anomalies with it, and C, those who have been there, and there are a lot of people that have agreed with me, that it's a world entirely different than the one that we live in right now.
Well, these people that are going to the, I believe they're going to the Arctic, but when they go, they're going to put everything live on the internet. They have 100 people. The seats are already filled with biologists, underwater sea divers, scientists and physicists and biologists, really academically well-qualified people. So we should know something back from that within the next year. So Sheldan, one question, and I want this to be your question. Like, you're interviewed a lot and people ask you different questions. What would be the one question that you wish people would ask more that you would like to answer?